right, dudes, we're going to talk about how you do large construction projects with no money. How do you do that? Like, say you're trying to do a job you're going to sell for $200,000 and it's going to have, like, say $75,000 in material on that job, and you don't have $75,000. How do you do that? I want to explain that process to you guys because we were doing a live yesterday and someone kind of asked about it, and I do think it's kind of interesting, and I don't think it's stuff that a lot of people know or really even talk about much. But this is actually the way that this works in the construction industry, no matter what. Even if you have all the money in the world, this is still the process that goes. So for large projects with no money, first thing you have to do is be a company, right? You obviously have to be an existing company, but then you're going to need vendor accounts. Okay, that is the first step if you want to do any kind of large project, unless you just happen to have a fuckload of money and want to reinvent the wheel. I don't think y'all can read these words, but anyway, that says vendor accounts. We're going to use a different color because the green don't show up good, looks like. So what that means is, like, suppliers, like if you're doing HVAC, it'd be Train, Johnstone, or, Carrier. If you're doing, if you're a welder, maybe it's fucking Matheson, or, like a piping supplier. Those suppliers, they're going to have accounts. You can set up an account and you basically fill out a credit app, and then you can get an account with that company. And it's really not that hard to get these accounts. They're going to start out small with you. So for me, whenever I first started a year and a half ago, not that long ago, boys, I only got like $5,000 on my line of credit for my shop account, right? But then you can set up job accounts. And my job accounts, when I first started, was up to $100,000. Now I think it's like, I don't know, it's way the fuck up there probably. But the way that works is you fill out a job sheet. So first you have to have the account with the vendor. You have to have have a credit account where you can go and say, yep, let me get $500 in materials, and you give them a PO and pay at the end of the month. Once you have that set up, you can then start doing the bigger jobs. And it's not that hard to get those accounts. But what happens is I'll get set of plans. I'll say, awesome, cool fucking plans. And I'll give those people a price for it, and I'll request a quote from one of these vendors. I'll say, hey, here's the fixture schedule from this set of plans. I need 8 of these, 2 of these, 1 of these. And then I'll send them a material takeoff list for piping. I'll say, I'm probably gonna need 800 foot of 2-inch copper, this much PVC, blah, blah, blah. And I'll get a quote for all that material and fixtures and shit for that job. And then if I get the job, I'll then get submittals. This is the next process. You get submittals for those fixtures, like the sinks, toilets. Even if you're doing HVAC, you get submittals for your HVAC equipment. If you're doing whatever you are, there's submittals. Pretty much almost every trade has submittals they have to provide beforehand. You get those from your vendor. And that vendor will then give you submittals package, which you give to your contractor, and they say, yep, we approved that submittal package. And once you get that submittal package approved, the contractor the vendor goes and orders all those materials to make sure you get them when you need them and shit like that. And then you set up a job sheet. So the job sheet is something you do at your office. Pardon me. And you got to get the owner of the building that you're doing the work in. Like, say Coca-Cola hired Billy Bob's Contracting to do this job, right? And then Billy Bob's hired me to do the plumbing scope. Well, I would fill out a job sheet for my vendor saying, yep, I got hired by Billy Bob's Contracting, who was hired by Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is the building owner. This is the contractor. And then I'm me. This job is going to be $75,000 in materials or whatever you estimate it to be. And then if it's like, depending on the tax structure of the job, some jobs you don't pay tax on the materials. You need to give them like a resell certificate or some sort of tax information to not pay taxes on those materials. So that job sheet will give you up to $100K in credit. Like, usually when you first start out, it's usually up to $100K. So and the reason the suppliers is willing to do this, and again, this is common practice. It's not like they're doing you a favor. This is what they do for everybody. The reason they do this is because they now have lien rights to that project. Okay, so if the materials don't get paid to that contractor, to that vendor, they can put a lien against that building, meaning that no permits can be pulled. You can't get a CO. You can't sell the building. The building's basically held in limbo. Like, no one comes and tears it down or says you can't go in it. But there's a lot of things you're not going to be able to do until that lien is satisfied. So once you start doing these commercial jobs, you get that job account set up, you start getting the materials. You don't have to pay any money. It's pay when pay is what it's called. It's a pay when pay setup. So you order all your materials and then you start doing the work. And now the way it works in commercial is, so this is the next step. Progress billing. Okay? Progress billing. on the 20th. And then this is fairly standard. God damn, you can't see nothing on this fucking board, boys. Let me see if I can get this closer here. It's about as close as that. Okay, so progress billing on the 20th. So the way this works, it's called progress billing, AIA billing. I think a lot of people have different kind of names for this billing system, but it's all the same essentially. And the way it works is whenever you get this job, you send a bid, right? You say, I'm gonna do this job for $100,000. You send the bid, they approve it. Once you get the bid approved, you need to send what's called a schedule of values. Shit. SOV. Schedule of values. And what that is you're breaking down that job. Fuck, the whiteboard's useless, boys, I think. Oh well. But it's like I said, we're saying it's a $100,000 job, and you're gonna break it down into components. You're gonna say, okay, here's phase 1, which is for me is rough in, phase 2, which for me is top out, phase 3, which for me is final. And you may break it down. I have one job that there's 16 schedules of value on. I got demo, rough, top, and trim on 4 different floors. So that's 16 different schedules of value. And you need to break it down to the whole job and say it's this much. This schedule of value is 25%, it's $25,000. This one's 40%, it's $40,000, and so on and so forth. And then on the 20th, you bill against that schedule of values, right? So let's say that you're saying the rough in, whoa, spell properly, Dyson. Rough in is $50,000, okay? And that's what you're billing for, is the rough in schedule right now. And on the 20th, you have to bill it, okay? For what's done by the, this is so terrible, by the 1st. Okay, can you all read that? That's the worst shit ever. Say the rough in's $50,000. On the 20th of the month, you want to bill for what's going to be done through the 1st, right? So it's January 20th on Monday, and like let's say I'm working on a project, and I say I'm going to be 80% done with the rough in phase, 80%, okay? And it's $50,000. So I'm going to bill 80% of that $50,000, which is, well, it's whatever. It's like $45,000 or whatever. So I'm going to bill 80% of 50,000 because I think I'm going to be at 80% done on the 1st, on the 20th, right? Fuck, this doesn't make sense. Oh well. But that's how it goes. So basically, once you start getting into this progressive billing, you already send them a schedule of values. Here's how much I'm billing for this part. Here's how much I'm billing for this part. It's this percentage of the job. It's this much material. It's this much labor. You have to break it down, really break it down. It's not easy to make the schedule of values. It's shit that when I'm really plugging away in my office, I'm doing shit like this for these bigger jobs. But so every month around the 20th, you need to send in a bill for your progress billing to all of your commercial customers that you're doing these AIA billing jobs for. And it fucked me up at first because I would think like, okay, I'm on the rough in phase, but I'm not 100% done. So I wouldn't bill anything until the following 20th, the next month, because I'm like, well, I'm not done, so I can't bill it. No, you don't have to be 100% done to bill that part. You bill wherever you're going to be at. If you're only going to be 25% done with that phase, bill 25% of that phase. So that's how you sustain this. You get paid. The vendors are pay when pay. They don't want money from you until you get paid. And in order, this is the next part actually. So it's pay when pay. So on the 20th, you send an invoice for all the work you predict you'll have done by the 1st. Okay, then you'll have to send an unconditional lien release. So the contractor doesn't want to pay you the money without some sort of guarantee that you're going to take the money that they pay you and pay off any vendors that have any lien rights to this job. So there's 2 types of lien releases. You have to release that contractor from the lien. There is a conditional lien release and an unconditional lien release. So for a big project, while we're going on it throughout the phases, I need to send a conditional lien release every time I'm sending an invoice. And that's me saying, when you pay me, like you're on the condition of you paying me, you're released from this lien. So it's basically like a guarantee that I am going to pay the supply house. And if I don't, I'm the one who's got the lien against them, not the fucking contractor. Okay, so you do that every phase. You're just billing every month. So you get to where, and the checks usually come like the first Friday, maybe like the second Monday of the following month. So like I'll probably get a shitload of checks like February 8th or some shit like that from all my progress billing jobs. But another thing is you always have to hold out 5% of these jobs for retainage, and you don't get that until the very end. And that retainage is 5% of the job. And what that is just to make sure that like you don't basically finish everything and like don't run off until we've got the full CO, everything's completed. And then once you send the unconditional lien release, like, hey, unconditionally, no matter what, no lien can be had on this building, you send that along with your warranty letter. Any equipment you install, you have to give them operators manuals and like all types of paperwork for any bit of equipment you installed. You give all that at the end with unconditional lien release, and then you get your final 5% retainage, and that job is complete, but you have a warranty on it for a year. So that's how you do these jobs with no money. I'm sure I was all over the place, boys. But I don't know, this is shit that I didn't know. When I started this company up, all this stuff I'm talking to you about, I didn't know that you could basically, in order to do these large projects, all you need is to be a somewhat established company, like 2-3 months old minimum, right? And have the ability to kind of cover payroll for a little bit, you know? So like if you have no money and no jobs, it would be tough to go straight into a big project, right? But like for me, I started out doing small service and kind of got, hey, I've got 20 grand in the bank, you know, I can do this like $30,000 job. And then it turned into, hey, I've got 50 grand in the bank. I can maybe, and I didn't pay those jobs. I got job accounts and did pay when pay, like I talked about. So it's not that hard, but you do have to be able to cover payroll, and you do have to know how to do the billing. And I promise you, all this shit I talked to you about, if you ever go and get into a construction project and get into the billing, you're gonna pull your fucking hair out. You're like, they want so much shit, just pay me. Bye, guys.